Yo, welcome back to the channel. Hey, I didn't prep for this video at all, but the Saints are playing right now, and I was just gonna pop over here, uh, make a quick video for a market preview going into the week, just so that I could really absorb those YouTube views because obviously I get paid like $100 per view on YouTube, so not a bad deal. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so let's look at the market, do some preparation for what we think might be going on going into this week, which is going to be the week of September 19th by the time market opens. We'll look at some crypto. We'll look at, obviously, SPX, S&P 500, and come up with some conclusions as to what can happen. This is before futures open. So obviously, I'm going to run it through a filter of if futures gap up, if they gap down, what it means, what it looks like. So let's get into it. So here we are looking at ES1, which is S&P 500 futures. And this, it's actually pretty crazy what kind of spot that they leave you in on all of these charts. So if you've been following the channel, you've known about this dotted midline that we've been watching, right? Make it a little bit thicker here. And it's crazy because you had your retracement to your 707 that we've been watching for literally weeks. Once we said... Oh, it was a 707 on the SPY. I'll show you that too. But this one actually is a golden pocket, which aligns with the SPY 707, which I'll draw up for you here. Sorry for the confusion. Here. Wait. Hold on. Let me put it on the 4-hour or something. Something's off about this fib. Did I start it up here? Yes. Okay. So we started it up here, the beginning of this move. I will say here, look, the first thing that I noticed whenever market closed was SPY closed on a tweezer bottom on the 4-hour here, which is a typical 2-candle reversal pattern. And then in after hours, you had this markup occurring, which is a pretty good look for SPY. And then you also have that correlated with this golden pocket retracement that occurred on ES1. You are still well below your uptrend that you established from these two bottoms here, and you're testing this midline on the ES1 chart. So you're actually, it's like a perfect, like you are nailing this midline that we've been watching on the ES1 chart. So what I'll say is, if futures gaps up, right? So if you, and I talked about this on Twitter briefly, if you don't follow me on Twitter, make sure you do so. But well, let's draw that trend line again because that might actually come into play here. So let me do 2 pixels because the one is too thin. We'll do a straight line, and then we'll make it light purple. Okay, so you're retesting this liquidity range, right? This box that we had drawn. Which is like an order block essentially, right? So this is a place where price has tended to turn around or make a decisive move. You're testing that along with this midline. You had really good volume on this swing back up, a good volume reaction for bulls, which is what I was saying was lacking in Thursday's video, I believe. I was saying that it just seemed like bulls just were letting the price drop. It was... there was no volume interest from bulls, no protective price action from bulls, and then you came down to the 707, and you finally got some reaction from bulls, and it actually looks like a pretty strong reaction. So what I'll say is, if you gap up, right, so if futures opens above this midline, and then probably you would see at that point some bearish price action, so maybe it would look something like this, where it opens at 39.21, and then it kind of sells down. The bears say, oh, it was a fake out. And then by the time you open tomorrow, I would actually be expecting a pretty significant move up if that were the case. And you would test this 39.67. So by the time that SPY opens, what that would look like is probably what you'd be seeing is the pre-market would look let me try and get this correlated with the days. The pre-market would look something like this sort of selling off here. And then when it opens, it would probably open and come back and test the midline that was left on SPY. And in that case, I actually do think that you're pretty bullish. That's a very bullish move. In the short term, I will say that I said this on Twitter, I did open some super lotto calls in the last like hour or so of trading, like probably at 2 p.m. Central, so an hour before market close. Just because I was seeing this formation, this hammer looking candle in the 4-hour here for SPY. It was at my 707, so I figured, you know what, we're seeing some reaction here at this 707. Let's buy. And actually, right away, we had some good movement. I didn't close anything out. My plan was to swing, so I'm just gonna swing. I was gonna swing them. It's not big enough size to where if we gap down, I'm gonna be upset or anything like that. It was just kind of like if I'm gonna swing, I'll take a high risk long side position, but nothing of significant risk for me. Now, if you gap down, then what I would be expecting is a retrace and actually to create a lower low on this move. And I would think that it's going to be something like a spring action, to where then you would come back up and retest this midline at a later date, bringing you to like 392 or something, maybe later on in the week. My bias, though, is that you open the week pretty hot and then they attempt to trap bulls. That's what I think. They try and generate the the FOMO behind, well, was that the local bottom? You had, pretty significant floor developed by bulls on that trading day. And finally, you had that really good pricing structure where it started to feel like bottomy, which you didn't have here, right? Throughout this trading range, I was just saying, like, everything's holding really high and doing this kind of redistribution. Inversely, on Friday, price was just sunk, right? You gapped down, and even when you popped up, you were still holding lower in that local range. And that's what I really like to see, because what it's meant to do is make people feel like, oh, price is struggling to get back over this level. You also do feel this gap back here on SPY with this move as well. Pretty good. I'd say overall, like locally regardless, I do think that this is somewhat of a local bottom until you test the 390s. We'll see what happens at the 390-ish level, 392-ish level for SPY. You'll want to see like volume, like you have to see a volume reaction. And then if you see, good volume from bulls, and then on those bearish moves, weaker volume, then you could see price continuation up into the 405 region, which was originally a region that we thought that was possible to revisit until we saw this kind of distribution-y look. So, again, it kind of depends on where futures opens and then obviously what direction it goes throughout the market. Like overnight, I would actually, whatever it is, I'm pretty much expecting the opposite reaction to happen to open the week going into from Monday to Wednesday. But I do think that overall the likelihood is that you do have downside continuation in the long term, right? So after you come up and you have a retest of liquidity up here, I do still think that the greatest likelihood is with bears and continuation down into this like 370, low 370s as of right now. But again, my mind can be changed. I'm not really too biased, and that was kind of my sentiment going into, like on Thursday's video. I told you guys, I said I don't really want to be leveraged to either side. I certainly didn't want to be leveraged in bull positions. I was fully convicted that we were going to go down and do 382. I didn't think that it would happen literally the next day, like at open, but I was like, there was no way. If you remember that video, I was like, there's no way that we don't test 382 now. Like that's what has to happen next. So that's pretty much that. Ethereum, I'm big disappointed in Ethereum and actually getting quite bearish on Ethereum now. I know that I've been saying that it was holding this range good. You lost this trend line on the 15th. So what was that, Friday? Late Thursday. You lost this trend line and you dumped. Now this thing is totally a distribution. So I'm totally expecting you to come down. And look, we even have this line pre-drawn here. I'm totally expecting you to come down to this 1250-ish region. And actually, we were on our way back from breakfast this morning, and I was literally looking at my phone, thinking about entering a short because you were literally retesting this region, and it just looks like failure. So I'm fully expecting Ethereum to continue dumping down into this liquidity zone. And to be honest with you, I don't think that this will be a bottom 1280. I think that you kind of have to trade back into this accumulation range, in my opinion. So that's how I feel about Ethereum. My feelings are not going to be very different for Bitcoin. Let's look at a couple charts for Bitcoin here, just because I know I have a few trend lines that are going on here. Ooh, it's hot in here. I didn't turn the AC on. I'm like about to start sweating. Let me turn my fan on right quick. It's that Louisiana heat, dude. I think the Saints are winning right now. My friends are texting me. They're like, "Where you at?" If they knew that I was doing this, they'd be quite upset. Okay. Wait, no. Okay, yeah, Saints are still up 3-0. Same thing with Bitcoin. Look, remember, you guys, I keep saying you're holding up in this range here. Bitcoin looks like it wants to go back down and test this purple line. Yeah, this is redistribution. So Bitcoin definitely looks like you're going to be seeing a move here. Now correlate that though with the general bearishness that we have towards SPX, right? So what I would be expecting then is crypto actually potentially has a short-term relief bounce here to correlate with the market beginning of the week. And then after that, I'm expecting the dump. And if you're looking at this, I do have this line marked as the 2017 high. You're literally testing it right now. Failure here, which is what looks likely at this point, in my opinion, after the sell-off. Failure here is very damning for Bitcoin. And I have this $14,000 level marked off here. And I was going to say, I don't think that that's going to happen right away, but this actually, it doesn't look like too bad of a potential scenario. I mean, you really don't have a lot of price protection below now this 17.5 bottom. And it looks like redistribution to me. Similar to up here in this range, right? How price was kind of holding high, and you kind of have this sort of look, right, within the market. This is what's occurring here, right? The goal here being hold price higher than natural, right? Institutions holding price higher than natural in order to redistribute, right? Distribute your shares. Higher than natural, sell off, right? Create an accumulation. This was an accumulation in order to do this distribution. And then this was not an accumulation because price was just holding unnaturally high, right? And you have this bull fake. You have these sorts of moments where basically everybody goes, hey, look, evidence, we're going to the moon. We made a new high or something like that. But in reality, the move was meant to, once you sell back down and you re-enter that order block, right? It's meant to signal that you're going to distribute your way back down. So just be on the lookout for that, especially after this failed retest right here, right? That's when it was over. Once you failed here, that's when you were getting sent down. So same thing happens in all these redistributions. So overall, this looks like a really weird like monster or something that I drew here. Luna Classic. We were bearish on Luna Classic, and you've continued to sell off here. This actually doesn't look too bad down here now at this liquidity range. It looks like you're filling up here. You should at least see one more sell down into this 26.5 cents, but I would be pretty interested to see what happens after that. I know that I was drawing this bearish channel on mobile. I don't know why we have such a... I don't know what has been going on with TradingView lately, man, but like it's the transition from mobile to to desktop lately has been very inconsistent, I must say. And I don't, I mean, I love TradingView, but it has been kind of aggravating. So I was actually looking to play this thing short a bunch over the weekend. But as it has continued to get out of this trend, I was having short stop losses, and I was kind of waiting for it to come back underneath here and get rejected back down to the bottom of this channel. But I was trying to get in, have an easy stop loss because I was so close to this trend line. So once it breaks, back over the trend line, I don't want to be in the short anymore because I don't know what's going to happen. So I was playing it that way, giving myself a little bit of breathing room. And never really got that crazy move down because I'm not shorting it up here outside of this range because there's no technical justification for that. I suppose what I could have done is I could have played this golden pocket on the inverse for the Fibonacci. Wouldn't have been a bad idea, but overall, I wanted to play the trend rather than try to be shorting outside of a bear trend, right? Like, you've broken out of a bear trend. I'm not really trying to short until I see some sort of other justification occur there. So I kind of just went hands off with that. And there's not really a good way to be drawing this. I will say that you like I said, you want to sell back down here to this 26-ish cent region. Probably also a good fib to follow there. And the reason I'm covering this is because there's a lot of opportunity in this because the moves are so volatile. So be sure that you're adding this chart. And if you have access to futures, if it's legal wherever you live, make sure that you check that out because there are big swings, which obviously there's a lot of risk. So make sure that you're having stop losses, having a plan to get out. But there's a lot of potential upside. AMC. We'll cover AMC briefly. AMC is in pretty bad shape. Not going to lie. I was pretty optimistic here that you were actually having a reaccumulation and that you were going to have the potential to press up. Let me redraw these trend lines because they're kind of all over the place, again, with the inconsistency from TradingView. Here. And you failed this retest. And then you you completely sold off Friday. So now this completely looks like a local distribution. With which I do think that you do have the potential to swing back up short term, and retest this 970 region. But I do think that overall the likelihood is that you have continuation to the downside. Because overall, bears stepped in when they had to, and bulls didn't. So my optimism has been kind of lost with this loss of this trend, this failed retest. Let me see, though, because I did have an alternate bull trend that I was drawing here. So obviously you have a bottom here, right? And then a bottom here. And right now you're actually testing this current potential trend, right? Okay, because you only have 2 touches to validate this. You could also argue that with this gap up, you came down, retested here, and held this as support as well. So this could be a true trend line that you're testing right now. But you definitely need to find support. You definitely need to find some volume as well for bulls to be pressing yourself back up. But again, this does correlate with my conviction that you are most likely to come up and retest this 970 region. And then from there, we're going to have to see where volume is. Ape here. Let's see. Yeah, you had a horrible sell-off on these assets on Friday, no doubt. It was just straight. Crime candle after crime candle. You know what I'm saying? That's what what occurred on Friday for these things. Ape, you have the potential here that you have like a local bounce that you could be. Let's see if we can draw this trend back further. Yeah, this is definitely a key trend line that's been traded pretty heavily on this stock thus far. So I do think that you probably bounce up to the top of this channel here locally, which would correlate with that move. I think overall everything looks like it wants to get that relief push. but I'm not very optimistic about the relief, like about the continuation yet. We'll have to see more information before we come up to that conclusion. But overall, that is my sentiment for the market. I do think that you have relief bounces across the board. For the most part, you have relief. Luna Classic has pretty much traded opposite everything else crypto. Like if crypto in general has been up, Luna Classic has been down. Luna Classic is up, crypto in general seems to be down. So definitely some liquidity game playing there. Also, technicals are important. You follow technicals before you follow the market, generally speaking, because within the market there is bullish trading opportunity, even if you're in a more bearish trend, and vice versa, right? So that's pretty much how I feel about the market. Look for that gap up or gap down on SPX futures to determine what direction the market is most likely to open up at. And then, honestly, I'm playing the opposite side at open. So if futures is way up, I'm going to be looking for the short opportunity, and if it's way down, I'm going to be looking for the long opportunity. So that's pretty much the video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and until next time, peace.